I have some delicious chicken paprikash braising away. It'll be ready in about an hour, and it's time to make the Hungarian egg noodles, or nokedli as they're called. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life, using real food, and we keep it real simple. Now, nokedli and spätzle are basically the same thing. They are just, spätzle is German, and nokedli is the Hungarian version. There are a couple ways you can make it. I mean, there's a million ways you can make this. But basically, it is flour, eggs, salt, and water. Now, I add an extra ingredient because I like the texture of the noodle a little bit better. And you're gonna want to have a pot of boiling water. I'm gonna use the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker and air crisper, but we're just using sear saute. So you could use any appliance that can boil water, or you could use a pot on the stove. I have 10 cups of water in here. I'm gonna go ahead and get it started on high so that it'll come to a boil while we make up the dough. The texture of the dough, and when I say that, I mean the hydration of the dough does make a difference in this recipe. You're gonna want it to be wet enough that it's gonna slide off and make these textured noodles. But you don't want it so dense that they're like kind of hard or rubbery when you go to bite into them. So we don't have exact measurements as far as the liquid goes. That's gonna depend on how much hydration your flour needs. I'm starting off with 3 cups of flour. This is gonna be enough noodles for 6 servings of the nokedli, which is going to pair with our 6 servings of chicken paprikash that I have cooking right now. To the 3 cups of flour, you're gonna wanna add in 1.5 teaspoons of fine grind sea salt or kosher salt, 3 eggs. Now, you can look online and there's various different recipes that have different amounts of eggs. If you want an egg heavier noodle, you can add in some more eggs. It's perfectly fine. And then you're not gonna use as much liquid to give the moisture of the dough. Now I'm just gonna mix this up a little bit, kind of break those yolks up. And we'll start to add in the water. And I'm just using a fork. There's no special equipment needed. I mean, there are things you can buy to make spätzle or nokedli, but I'm gonna show you the way I do it. And it doesn't require anything but a cutting board and either a spoon or a knife or a bench scraper, which is what I'm gonna use. So once the egg is sort of broken up and mixed in a little bit, then we're gonna add in my secret ingredient, which is sour cream. And I'm gonna use 3 tablespoons of sour cream. You could use a little more if you want it, or you could use less, it's up to you. What I find that the sour cream does, not only does it add a nice little flavor, but I think it lightens the dough of the noodle, and I just like the texture better. So I always add it in. So mix that in, and you're gonna come with like a very dry, shaggy dough right now. Measure out 2 cups of warm water and add about a cup of it. Yep, that's good. And mix that in. All right, once you no longer see any liquid in there or any flour, I'm gonna switch over to a different type of utensil just to get a really good mix on this dough. To make sure that all of the flour from underneath is very well hydrated. Now I've only added 1 cup of liquid. That will vary again because the hydration level of your flour will vary. It does not look like I'm gonna need any more liquid in here. All right, that looks good. And this is about the consistency that you want. So it is not a thick dough. We want it to be able to drop into the water, form these little noodles with some ridges in them, and then you want them to boil very quickly. Then we pull them out and let them drain. So that looks good. I only used 1 cup of water to the 3 cups of flour. And we're starting to get a little bit of a boil here, so now is a good time to add in salt. We are not gonna be eating the water. So you want to season this like you would pasta, okay? So when you season pasta water, you want it to taste like the sea. So I'm gonna put in 2 tablespoons of fine grind sea salt into this water. And then that is gonna help to season up the nokedli. Whether you're using an appliance or a big pot on the stove, there are several ways that you can put the dough, we're gonna call this the dough. It's kind of more like a batter to me, but dough or batter, whatever you want to call it. There's several ways you can get it from the bowl into the pot. One of the easiest ways that I found to do it is to use a cutting board, a plastic type of cutting board. It makes it so super easy, and that's what I'm going to do today. Okay, so place your plastic cutting board on top of the pot, and then pour about 1/4 to 1/2 of a cup of your dough, batter, whatever you want to call it, right there. Now we want to thin it out some, which is why I like to use this bench scraper. In fact, I will dip it into the water and then sort of bring it to the edge and thin it out, just like that, and then push them off. Push little pieces off. You do not need to be exact. You just don't want them too big and you don't want them too small. All right, there we go. Batch 1 done. Now, when they float, they are finished. I like to use this really large scoop because it's got holes in it. So I'm just gonna move it around the bottom, sort of. Move these around and let them finish cooking. They're only gonna take about 30 seconds. Then you're gonna wanna put them into some sort of a bowl with a strainer so that the liquid will fall away from the noodle. We're gonna do a couple of batches and then coat them in butter so they don't stick together while we wait for our chicken paprikash to be done. All right, those are looking great. Now make sure if your water has stopped boiling, make sure you let it come back to a boil before you do the next batch. And then we're just gonna repeat this until all of our batter or dough has finished cooking and we have a good amount of nokedli. All right, there we go. We are all done with that. And now, once I get this batch out, then I'm gonna transfer the warm nokedli into another bowl with 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, if you want, you could do this in batches. So you could put 2 tablespoons of butter in the bottom and then 2 tablespoons of butter on top. That's probably what I'm gonna do. And we might as well get these in right now. You don't want to rinse the nokedli off, although I have heard some people do that. I don't prefer to do it that way because I like the starch on there. I think that's part of what makes it a great noodle, especially for a gravy like paprikash. All right, there we go. Now this bowl is actually a little bit smaller than I would really need for all of this nokedli. So it made about 4 cups, which I think is plenty for 6 servings. Feel free to adjust the ingredients up or down. You can make as many nokedli as you want just by adjusting the ingredients. You could also put a little bit of parsley on. I ordered some fresh parsley because I thought it would look so pretty, but the store was out of it. So I might garnish this with a little bit of dried parsley. But right now I'm just focused on getting the noodles coated in the butter so that they don't stick together. In order to dress this with a little bit of fresh parsley, I've decided to move it into a larger container because it is just about 4 cups and I don't have enough room to mix everything together. Make sure you get all that melted butter. Oh my gosh, I tried one. They're so good. Oh my gosh, perfect texture. Oh, I just love it. Then sprinkle with about a tablespoon of either fresh or this is dried parsley, and it's just a beautiful vibrant green. And it just gives a little bit of interest to your nokedli. It's totally optional though. All right, now you are ready to serve it, or you can put a lid on it and leave it at room temperature until whatever dish you're gonna serve it with is ready to go, and it will stay warm for at least 30 minutes or so. One last thing, just give it a little taste. Oh my. Perfectly seasoned, so delicious. This is gonna be fantastic with our chicken paprikash.